I'm Nick Pirro, the Vice President of the Columbus Monument Corporation here in Syracuse, New York, and I'm very pleased to be here to talk about our involvement with Columbus Day in Syracuse and the great history of the heritage of the Italian people that brought it here. I want to say that this goes back to the year 1910, when actually before that, in the late 1800s, when many Italian immigrants were starting to come, leaving Italy to come to the United States. And around 1910, a professor from Syracuse University, Professor De Felice, and a physician, Dr. Cerulli, made a trip to Italy to talk to a sculptor about creating a Columbus monument for Syracuse. This was a difficult time. I have in front of me a sign that said, this is 1988, the Syracuse City Council passed a resolution noting that any contracts for paving in Syracuse shall bind themselves not to employ any Italian labor. So this is part of what went on. People may be familiar with the fact down in New Orleans there were 11 Italians lynched for no reason at all. So the Italian people went through a lot as they move forward and become part of the great United States of America. They started their own businesses. They took a larger part in the community, in the arts, in religion, and in politics. And that's dear and dear to me because my father was one of the first Italian Americans elected to first the Board of Supervisors, then the City Council, and then County Treasurer. They endured, and I think that one of the reasons when the Industrial Revolution came along, the skills that they brought with them allowed them to then people to realize how valuable they were. The idea, as I mentioned, for the monument began in 1910. The professor and the doctor wanted to do something. They went to Italy. They met with Renzo Baldi, the sculptor, and he created a model, which I have right behind me. This is the original. To help promote the idea. Of course, then World War I came about. The effort was active until 1916, but then the entire thing stopped, which was unfortunate. And later on, the group organized themselves into what was known as the Columbus Monument Association, of which our corporation is now a follow-up to that. When World War I brought everything to a grinding halt, things happened. There was no doubt that the Italian people suffered what today you would call a George Floyd moment with the execution of Sacco and Vanzetti. This was something that got people's attention, and certainly their execution woke up the community and woke up the Italian people that they needed to do more. So it was the beginning of the group meeting, trying to raise money to begin to create the statue that was talked about actually over 15 years before that. They organized almost with a military precision, they organized a situation where they had 15 generals who were responsible to raise $1,000 each. Now remember, we're talking back in the late 1920s, early 30s. And then there were captains who were responsible of that 1,000 to raise $100 apiece. There were thousands of people involved. I have some documents here that go back to that time, and you'll see on these documents, here's Mary Barnaba, $1. Joe Campione, 50 cents. These are people that went in deep into their pockets and came up with whatever little money they could because they knew that they could do it. And those people raised the entire $15,000 in a week. And their motto was, something from everybody, it's done. I did my share. So this was something that they took great honor in doing. They became part of the community. The Columbus Monument Association organized food drives. I can remember my father ordering a load of coal to be sent to somebody's house during the winter because They just didn't have the money to buy it, and it was cold, obviously. Everything moved along, and then the stock market crashed, and the Great Depression began. However, we had a new mayor, Raleigh Marvin, who was probably one of the best mayors Syracuse has ever had, and he decided that he wanted to be part of this. He was a great supporter of the Italian people, and he decided that he wanted to make this happen. And with the Italian people, he worked to develop, looking at a number of sites around the city. One of them, they were going to tear down a building dedicated to somebody, and that would rose objections. Another one was up in the Strathmore area, and people complained they didn't want it there. And then finally he decided that he took St. Mary's Circle in front of the cathedral here in Syracuse, and that's where the Columbus statue was going to go. The contract with Renzo Baldi, the sculptor, and Dwight Baum, who was the architect. And if you're familiar with the name Baum, he's the brother of the author of The Wizard of Oz. So they were both very much entrusted with this moving ahead. This was a picture right here, if we can get it in the camera, of the sculptor in Italy, in Florence, Italy, with the skeleton for the statue of Columbus here in Syracuse. Everything progressed real well. They had raised the money, and as usual, things happened. The gold standard was eliminated in 1933. It devalued the U.S. dollar, and it caused a situation where they were short, I think somewhere in the neighborhood of $12,000 to $15,000 in order to pay for it. Joseph Pietrafesa, who had the Learberry clothing factory here in Syracuse, he took over, and they went back out and led another fundraising drive, and in 1934 they were able to raise the money to be able to pay for everything. There was a delivery from Italy of, let me read it here, 53 cases of marble. These were a number of the people at that time, including my father, who went down to New York City to meet the delivery ship and to escort the marble here to Syracuse. And with the help of Governor Lehman at the time, he allowed the transportation costs from New York City to Syracuse to be waived by the state of New York, and that helped out a lot to make it happen. So a lot of people played a part. Then in 1934, the statue was unveiled to a crowd of over 40,000 people. There was a parade, a banquet, a lot of things went on, and the statue was dedicated. Now, just to give you an idea of what it involved is the ambiance behind the Columbus Circle here in Syracuse is an Italian piazza obelisk, an Egyptian symbol of power. It's gray and pink granite base. It represents ships, prows of ancient Roman vessels signifying Italian navigational prowess, which Columbus was really noted for. The fountain spouts are creatures of the sea. The bottoms of the pool bottoms has a navigator's compass and a colored stones, like many Italian grottos and fountains. Baldi's Columbus statue is a cast bronze 11 feet tall. It depicts the explorer as a young man, long before his trip, staring at the West maps and charts in his hand. The plaques depict scenes from his life. The masks that are on there are a mask of Native Americans, function as clasps to hold the obelisk together and celebrate the people who were already here before Columbus arrived. The dedication that day included really thousands of people. There was, the America Beautiful was sung by the public school children's chorus of 500 young people. Then there was a song sung by the young ladies chorus of 200 voices. And then the mayor's wife, Mrs. Raleigh Marvin, unveiled the Columbus Monument. There was tremendous fanfare. And everyone was involved. And I want to make a point here because we hear a lot about the Native Americans. The Columbus Day involvement, the invitation list, included a invitation to Chief Jesse Lyons, the Onondaga Nation, which is the tribe here in Onondaga County. And he sent 2 of the chiefs to be part of that. There's a picture here. If I can get that into the scene here. There's a picture here of Baldy, the sculptor, and Baum, the architect, with the 2 chiefs that came from the Onondaga Nation to be part of the ceremony. Following that up, Chief Lyons and the clan brothers of the Onondaga Nation made Renzo Baldi, the sculptor, an honorary member of the Onondaga Nation. So the Native Americans were involved. And how far does that go? Well, it goes to the point that in 68 rather, I'm sorry, there was a large parade here in Syracuse. The Onondagas were involved in that parade. They did the Indian peace dance in a solidarity with the people of Syracuse. Frankie Lane, a famous singer, came and sang "God Bless America." Mayor William Walsh was the mayor of the city of Syracuse, and that'll tie into something later on. And John Volpe, the governor of Massachusetts, came and gave the main speech. So it was a wonderful day in having that event in 1968. And meanwhile, it continued. We've had Columbus Day luncheons every day a year since 1975, honoring with the Pietrafesa Award. The first one was Frank Del Vecchio, who was the first Italian-American district attorney in Syracuse. The second one was Tom Sardino, the first Italian-American police chief in Syracuse. Tarchi Lombardi, state senator, one of the first Italian state legislators from this area. And then it goes on and on, honoring Julius Pericola, who was the head of Bristol Myers here in Syracuse. Mario Rossi, editor of the Syracuse newspaper. Father Charles Borgognoni, the pastor at Our Lady of Pompeii, but then went on to be the priest who ran at Syracuse University, the chapter up there where Catholics and other people could come, and he was very involved at Syracuse University. In 1992, we honored the immigrant. That was the year of the Quincentennial. Roy Bernardi, the first Italian mayor, was honored. John DeFrancisco also followed Tarchi Lombardi as state senator. Joe Scuderi, a local businessman who was a real estate developer in Syracuse, very, very prominent. In 2018, we honored the Italian Americans of Central New York. And then last year, we honored the current county executive. And we started a new award, the Pirro family. That's my family, but my cousin Tom and his father. And they gave the award and they call it the Santa Maria Award. So we have been honoring people in the community, and we're getting ready in a few days, or today probably, to honor more people. Now, the Quincentennial in 1992 required the restoration of the statue, and I'll explain how this plays into what we're dealing with now. With the support of the state of New York, with the support of some grant funds, and then with the $167,000 raised by the Columbus Monument Corporation, we were able to completely restore the statue, the inner workings, the fountains, and people will tell you right now that statue and the workings within it are good for another 50 years. So a lot went on to celebrate the quincentennial, and I also want to point out that the mayor has been very involved. Mayor Walsh was involved, and that's important. And again, I pointed out the Onondagas were involved. I mentioned Sculptor Baldy becoming an honorary member of the Onondaga Nation. And all the ethnic groups in Syracuse were involved. We've always made sure that we shared our heritage with everyone. So that's the story of the beginning of the monument, the beginning of the works that went on. You know, they got a word today called crowdfunding, where everybody kicks in or goes online and through some online mechanism now to contribute money to a thing. Well, those people back in those days, they raised money. If you look at the documents, they had the different events, dances and bazaars and bake sales, where they brought in $2, $3, $5, but it all went together, and these people were ahead of their time and coming together as a community to raise the money. So the Quincentennial Dinner was quite an event. The program that took place in October 10th, 1992 was involved with, at that time, I was the county executive of Onondaga County. I made remarks. Tom Young was the mayor. And the 500th anniversary of Columbus's voyage was celebrated. But also on that committee of the people that worked to put it on was Chief Irving Paulus, Jr. of the Onondaga Nation. And again, I point this out because all the way through, since day one, all the events, the Onondaga Nation has been involved and been supportive. Now, where are we today? We're in the middle of a lawsuit, which is very unfortunate. Several years ago, when the Black Lives Matter movement was going on, there were protests in Syracuse, and protesters went to City Hall, and our current mayor, Ben Walsh, decided to join with them. He went out, he marched with them, he took a knee, he did all that. At some point in time, one of the activists, Native American activists, went to him and said, "We demand you take the Columbus Monument down." First they told him they wanted it down in 2 days. He said he couldn't do that, but he would take a look at it and all that. So he formed a committee of a number of people to look at it. There were, I think, 18 people on the first committee. They were called the Columbus Circle Action Committees. They met for, I think, and I was on it, I think we met for like 6 months, and nobody could come up with a recommendation to do anything with the statue, and nothing happened. So then the mayor decided that he was going to form a second committee. This one was what I would call in the business a stack committee. There were 25 people, of which he appointed 21. There were 4 of us from the Columbus Monument Group. And they, to the person, maybe, well, give or take maybe 1 or 2 people, they were absolutely demanding from the first meeting that the Columbus statue come down. So we had, I don't know how many meetings. Interestingly enough, when we got all done and the report came out, they did not recommend the statue come down. We had made a strong case. I think the mayor was deeply disturbed by that. Now let me take you back to what I said earlier. Mayor William Walsh was a great supporter of the Columbus Monument in our events. In fact, every year he asked to, in a polite way, be the person that laid the wreath at the monument. And we've got pictures of him doing that. Our current mayor's father was a member of the city council and went on to become our congressman. And he sponsored resolutions supporting Columbus Day in Washington every year that he was in Congress. Now the son comes along, and for whatever reasons, he does not follow the family tradition of being supportive and decides that he's going to try to take the statue down. Well, after he created this action committee, and after nothing came out of it that said the statue must come down, 3 days before Columbus Day in 2020, he made a public statement, a press conference, and said that he was going to take the statue down. That was very disappointing because we thought that in light of the fact that we did everything we could to be helpful. We offered to raise money. There's a small pocket park right next to the Columbus Monument that has just got some benches in it. We offered to make that a heritage park. We offered to raise $25,000 to get it off the ground. We offered to, make it inclusive of everyone in the city. We sent him that offer through a subsidiary person. They said, well, the mayor's not interested. And he never responded himself to it. That was very disappointing. And like I said, a few days before our Columbus celebration, October 9th, he declared that he was going to take it down. So that left us with very little road to travel. We ended up meeting, the Columbus Corporation meeting, and said, what can we do to deal with this? What can we do to fight this off? Well, interesting enough, we had a couple of attorneys here in Syracuse call us and said, we want to give you pro bono our support to fight this in court. Well, within a week or two, we had 9 attorneys, 2 former state Supreme Court judges, 1 former county court judge, a former state senator, former county attorney, and 4 other attorneys in Syracuse all join in pro bono to fight this lawsuit. Now, the entire premise was, first of all, this is in a historic district. It's part of this historic district downtown where the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception is, and it would require the Public Arts Commission. It would require the Landmark Preservation Board to be involved. The mayor involved none of those people. He just made a proclamation he was going to do it, which is a little shocking in light of the fact that his father and his grandfather were great supporters. But I think he was playing to what, I'm not sure. Must be he was afraid of the protesters and decided that he was going to take their position. I don't know if he felt that it was for votes or what, but certainly it divided the community. So the lawsuit was filed, and our attorneys went to work on it, and we even sent him a letter, Mayor Walsh, we would like to fully understand that, we're working to bring the people together, not to separate people. But for some reason, he wanted to hear none of it. So as time went on then, the lawsuit was finally brought to the Supreme Court of the United States. Supreme Court of New York State, our current 4th district. The lawyers went. The mayor hired a outside law firm. Even though he has an entire law department within city government, he hired an outside law firm, a major firm in Syracuse, to also represent the city. Our 9 pro bono lawyers went to work, and while the mayor spent over $100,000 fighting this lawsuit, the judge ruled on 4 or 5 of the main points that the mayor could not take the statue down. First of all, he had no authority to do it, which we said from day one. But he must have been feeling his oats and felt that because he was the mayor, he could do anything he wanted to do. The bottom line is that the day that the court decision come out, the mayor announced within 45 minutes that it went public that he was going to appeal it. So now that process is going on, and of course this case probably won't be heard now until sometime next year. Meanwhile, it continues to divide people. The history, the heritage behind it means nothing to him, which is amazing because he comes from a family that has a lot of heritage in the Irish community in this town, with his father being a mayor and his father being a congressman and his grandfather being a mayor. It just amazes people why he's doing this, and at this point he won't speak to it, so we don't know. But we thought that once the court made its decision, it would make sense to say, all right, I fought the battle, we didn't win, let's move on and let's bring the community together. And we've offered to do it, but it doesn't happen. So the appeal is now, they were just given 60 days more to perfect their appeal. We'll have probably 60 days following that, sometime in December, so it'll go until next year. Meanwhile, the support has been growing. We have support that has come to us from all segments of the community: the German-American community, the Ukrainian community, the Polish community, the Jewish community. A number of the ethnic groups have signed our petitions, have come on board. Obviously they can't do it as their organization, but they do it as individuals, and most of them are the leaders of their organization. And I thought it was very telling. This was interesting because it was said to me by a person from the Ukrainian community, and this was obviously before the war broke out. And also, it was, I guess, also reiterated by a woman from the Polish community. She said, you know, it's you today. It could be us tomorrow that somebody wants to take down what we believe in or what we see as a statue honoring somebody of our area. So everybody is concerned about this cancel culture. Everybody's concerned about the entire thing. And that's why, as the Columbus Monument Corporation, now a successor to the Columbus Monument Association, that's why we're fighting this. Nobody wants to be doing it. God knows the hours we have spent working on this. We've had meetings almost every 2 or 3 weeks for 2 years. We have met with the lawyers. I'm the lead petitioner. We have 25 other people who have signed on to the lawsuit as petitioners. About half of them are not Italians. Some of them are, and we're both political parties, so it's not a political thing. But they just see it as wrong. They see it as something that shouldn't be going on. Meanwhile, we have expanded our reach. We have joined, the Italian people have formed an organization. Basil Russo out of, I think, Cleveland, Ohio, is the president of it. There are over 450 Italian organizations throughout the country, major Italian organizations, that have now all come together as one. They're in Washington fighting for actually demanding a meeting with the president right now to make sure that he maintains Columbus Day as a national holiday. It's a shame that we got to fight for this stuff after all these years, after people have proved themselves. But we're out there, and we're going to continue the fight. We're doing it in an honorable way. We're not calling people names. We're not, protesting. We're not doing anything like that. We're doing it in the way we're following the law, and we're trying to do it to make sure that we maintain what all those people that raised the 25 cents, the 50 cents, all the work, the people that, going back to Cerulli and the Felice when they went in 1910 to meet with the sculptor, which is, over 112 years ago. We owe it to them to not let them down. I owe it to my own father, who was very involved in it. He was one of the generals in the fundraising. He went to New York to bring the marble back. We owe it to these people, and that's one of the reasons we have joined this organization from throughout the country now. Obviously, their main focus is to fight for keeping Columbus Day a national holiday, but they are supporting us as we celebrate Columbus Day today with our ceremony at the Columbus Circle, and then our luncheon, in which we're honoring Bill Magnarelli, a state assemblyman who's been a great supporter, and Ralph Vitella, who owns a shoe repair shop in Syracuse, but donates 37,000 shoes last year to the rescue mission for people that are homeless or people that need that. So we continue to follow what they did back in 1930, 31, where they gave out food baskets and they gave out coal to people to warm their houses. We continue to follow that heritage because it's ingrained in us. And so therefore, we join with a lot of others that say, we're not trying to take anything away from anybody else. So why are certain people trying to take this away from the Italian people? Thankfully, we have support from beyond just the Italian people, and I'm sure that we're going to be victorious in the end. But it's one of those things, and all this information that I talked about, all these things, and I want to go back to we have a group of Native American activists who continuously get on TV, but they don't speak for the nation. And this was right from one of the reports that was done. Let me read it to you because I think it's important. Key leadership of the Onondaga Nation, when consulted on the issue of Columbus Day, have chosen not to take a personal position, and have indicated that the nation itself does not take a formal position on Columbus Day, or the decision-making of the city and county entities here in Onondaga County. Individual members of the nation are free to have their own opinions and can participate as they see fit in activism on this and other issues. Now, we agree with that. We have no problem with the fact that there are some that disagree. That's the nature of this great country. But on the other hand, we certainly are not going to let a handful of people overcome what thousands of people have built in this community. And all these people that have been honored over the years, leaders in politics, leaders in business, leaders in the medical field, all these people that have been honored over these years, certainly we would be letting them down to not fight this thing, And the last thing, at 82 years old, the last thing I need to be spending hours and hours on something that's, I still can play golf and I'd like to be out doing it more. But this is so important because I am not going to let all those people down. I am not going to let my father down. And certainly many, many other hundreds of people that are involved in this have the same reasons. When you look at those lists of the people that raised the money, and you saw they gave 50 cents, $1, some of them a dime, they did it because they believed in what was going on. So I continue to do that to this day. There's just something that it's a shame that it has to end up in a legal matter, because this is not something that we should be suing over. The mayor shouldn't be wasting taxpayers' dollar fighting it. At least from the first time, maybe he thought he was doing the right thing, but now, after he lost in court, it's time to, in my mind, to say, all right, let's move on. And we're willing to put it behind us and move on. And we're willing to still raise money to make the Heritage Park next to the Columbus Monument something important to Syracuse and all the other ethnic groups. We even have a current architect who is working on a plan that we would eventually bring out when it's finished, to say, all right, here's a starting point. Look at this. Move, change it. Do whatever you want, but let's all do it together. So to all the people out there that support Columbus Day, we ask that you continue to do it. I also want to point out, I'm not going to get into defending the whole history of Columbus and the voyages and what was done by people that followed him. That's well documented by real scholars that know exactly, what the truth is and because we have seen a lot of people speak one thing, even though they don't have any facts to back it up. So I hope that people will read. There are a lot of documents out there. There are a lot of books written. There are reports given. Read it. Decide for yourself. We have no problem with that. And I have been in politics for a long time. I realize there's two sides to everything, and I realize that people will never agree on everything. And there's no reason to do that. But right now, we are defending this beautiful statue right here in Syracuse, New York, that a lot of people went through a lot of trouble and a lot of hard work to build. It's been part of our community for 90 years. 90 years people have been sitting around there, having their lunch, taking pictures, meeting. Last year or I think it was last year, maybe the year before, when Italy won the soccer, the Worldwide Soccer Cup, all the soccer fans went down there and celebrated around the statue. So the fight continues. I don't know if I can add anything more, except we're on, our website is columbusmonumentsyracuse.com. columbusmonumentsyracuse.com. There's a lot of information. We need all the support we can get. And to all the people fighting the battle in the different areas, and we've talked to the people from Philadelphia and from other places that are all involved in the same type of battles. But we're tough people, and we're not going to give up. So I continue to, make that fight.